It wasn't very long ago that someone asked, I think it was Meredith, what exactly I teach, which is actually a pretty good question. And she asked me not to use any math, which isn't actually that much of a problem because really only one of my classes is really math intensive. Most of the others aren't. But basically what I do, let's take a step back. What mechanical engineers do is they figure out how to build things, how strong they have to be, how torsionally resistant they have to be, how you put them together. But no one really teaches them what to make stuff out of. They make assumptions, this has to be kind of light, so I'll make it out of aluminum or titanium. Or, weight doesn't matter, so I'll make it out of steel because steel is cheap. But they don't think that, there are thousands of recipes for steel. You put in a little bit of chromium to give it a little more corrosion resistance, or you put in a lot of chromium and make it stainless steel. You put in a little bit of this and it does that. You put a little bit of carbon in it gets a little bit harder, a little bit stronger, but a little more brittle. And it's even wackier when you get to the other things. Aluminum, it has 8 series of alloys, each of which has hundreds of possible uses. And so what I do in the class I'm teaching this term specifically is teach them all about these things. Tell them, okay, here's your basic steel, and here are some things you can add to change the properties of this steel, to make it hardenable, to make it work hardened. When you bang on it, it gets harder, which is very useful in, say, railroad applications. And then I also teach them all the different aluminum alloys, or at least the families of aluminum alloys, and what makes them different, and a few of the families of titanium alloys. And then a bunch of different polymers, because they never learn anything about polymers, plastics, and ceramics, which not my specialty. I teach them a little. Glasses, not my specialty. I teach them a little. And then the other big thing I teach is corrosion. I teach failure. I should mention that. Why things break, or by looking at a broken surface, can you tell what broke it? Can you tell, did it fail brittle like a piece of candy? Did it fail ductily like a big piece, like a rubber band? Did it die by fatigue, which is repeated stresses? And things like that, and what those look like either to the eye or under the microscope. But my main thing is corrosion. And that's one of the things that really gets to engineers, is because the only time a corrosion engineer ever gets called in is when something has broken and they don't know why, and it's got all this goop on the inside, and they want us to come in there and fix it. They never think of it beforehand. And they'll say things like, let's make it out of stainless steel. But again, there's 100 different flavors that some do better in this environment and some do better in that environment. And until they learn those sorts of things, and some of them are weldable and some of them aren't weldable, and how do you put these things together? And can you put 2 different kinds of metals together? And sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And so what I try to teach them in my various classes is then, what should I make things out of? What are the limitations? How strong do things get? Which is based on, what's your environment? How hot does it get? Is there salt in the water? Is it really live steam? Is it 300 psi steam, at several hundred degrees? Or is it, outside? Or is it inside where the humidity stays small? And even when I say outside, is it North America or is it India? There's a huge difference. Monsoon season in Indonesia, is it going to operate there? Because it's an archipelago, and so there's always chlorine, and so the stuff pits. And that's what my corrosion class does, is it teaches them what's the environment from a corrosion standpoint, and can my material handle it? And then there's diffusion, which is basically solving a lot of second-order partial differential equations that I'm not even going to start to explain, because that's all math all the time. I think that about covers what I was looking for, and also covers the head scratching that Don Marie asked for. So I will talk to you kids later. And I'm going to kill my phone companies, both of them, and possibly the entire finance department. I, of course, am joking. I would never do that.